I'll give a quick rundown. There is food and coffee over here, so feel free. This is a casual event. Get up during the presentation, refill your coffee cup. It's all okay, nobody will yell at you. We also want to just point out our sponsors here today because we're really grateful for the library for giving us this really cool space. So, do I see Ed? Oh, Ed's in here. But you might see Ed come in and out, and if you do, give him a round of applause and a thank you. He does a lot to make this happen. We also have 100 State, who has been our long-term sponsor. We're really grateful for their support because they provide the coffee over here from Crescendo. So we've got great coffee every week, and it's a wonderful thing to have them as part of the 1 Million Cups community. And then Field 59 back here, hiding behind the camera, we've got Derek. Field 59 does a live stream and a video recording of every presentation. So if you go to our website or our YouTube channel, you can check out past presenters. And then if you ever see a presenter and you can't make it down to the library, you should check out our live stream. So via our newsletter or our website, you can find the link and then you can tune in during the presentation and catch it. So I'd encourage you to do that. And then just a couple quick announcements. We have Forward Fest coming up. Is everyone familiar with Forward Fest? Awesome. I see lots of head nods. So make sure you check out their website. I think they're continuing to add some new events, and it's a great chance to see what's happening in Madison and get involved in the entrepreneurial community. Shobin and I also have an event coming up as a part of Forward Fest that I'll pitch really quick. It's called The System, the Failures, and the Consequences on the Country. And we have the guys from Making a Murderer coming out, Judge Everett Mitchell, and then 2 of the directors from the Wisconsin Innocence Project. And we're going to be looking at how technology is going to change things over the next 5 to 10 years in some of those high-profile cases and just in our criminal justice system. We'll be examining some of those big famous cases. If any of you listened to Serial or watched Making a Murder, you know about Stephen Avery. So I'd encourage you to come out. We've got Underground Food Collective catering that, and there's beer from Octopi Third Sign Brewery, and it's going to be free, and it's going to be right up on this 3rd floor here on August 19th. And then we also have a special 1 Million Cup / Doyenne edition. So one of the female entrepreneurs pitching at the event will take home a $5,000 check, which we're really excited about. We're passionate about female entrepreneurs here in Madison. So that will be on August 24th, and there won't be a typical 1 Million Cups here. If anyone's interested in attending that, it is a paid event, so check out the Forward Fest website. And now we'll do some quick introductions. For those of you, this is your first time, we're going to go around and just say who you are and kind of what you do, and that'll give you a sense of who's in the room. Then we'll turn things over to Nick. He'll give his presentation, and after about 10 to 15 minutes, we'll open it up for your questions. So start thinking about questions you want to ask him, and please feel free to speak up. That's kind of the part of the fun of this event. And on that note, I'm Rachel Neal. I work at Nordic Consulting, and I'm also one of the organizers of 1 Million Cups.
I'm Brian Robertson, relocated here from Minnesota. I'm looking for work in software sales, tech sales.
Joey Frayne, Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation.
Steve Clark, co-founder of 32 Auctions, which is a platform for hosting and managing silent auction fundraisers.
I'm Alex Ryan with Sun Power Corporation in the solar industry.
Drew Madden, I'm kicking around a couple of healthcare IT startup ideas.
Nick Lombardino with AtlasProviders and also Farwell.
Rob Dobbins, Wisconsin Agent Network.
Brian Waite with Neckerman Insurance and AtlasProviders.
Katie Gator, Domestic Abuse Intervention Services. Nicole Jenkins, American Printing.
Andy Quant with the Bike Mobile.
Mitch DeWitt, I'm with Merrill Lynch. I'm relatively new financial advisor in the area, just started in January.
Karen Orr, I'm a founder of a startup business in Madison called Pause by Ono, and it's a baby monitor in your car for your pet.
Nice. My name is Tom Willis. I'm a software engineering consultant focusing on intellectual property and patents, working out of 100 states.
Molly Siegel, I work for Talivant. We do business intelligence consulting here in town.
I'm going to stand up here. My name is Dennis Barnum. I'm in a lot of things, but I'm here mainly as a Berlin mentor and also as a member of the committee for one of the Forward Fest events called Badger Startup Summit. And that is basically we're trying to promote entrepreneurship in the Badger State and connections throughout the nation with Badger alumni. But one of the things we do in the afternoon is called Pitch and Replay, and it's an opportunity for those of you who want to get out and pitch your idea, whether you're brand new or you've actually got off the ground, to pitch to multiple investors and mentors and service organizations. And where we do it is it's kind of like a musical chairs. You start at a table, you pitch for 5 to 7 minutes, you get 7 minutes of feedback, then you move to the next one. And you get about 5 or 6 chances to pitch your idea. And I think you were in that last year or year before. Did you go to the pitch and
Yeah. It's quite a challenge to go through. You think you're going to be like, okay, I can do this, and you get to you're like, oh my goodness, it's a great challenge.
And it's good feedback. You get to learn a lot about your business and your idea from people who have been through it a lot. And we've actually had several successful companies, some have gone through a million cups, that have started at this Pitch and Replay. So if you're interested in participating, go to thebadgerstartup.com. Actually, Rachel will be speaking there. She forgot to mention us, but she's also
I was letting you
mention it. And like I said, there's been several companies that have gone through here. It's worth checking out if you want to get some practice pitching your idea. And as a mentor, I'm going to tell you, anytime you get a chance to pitch your idea, do it.
And Dennis will be around after the presentation, so if you have any questions or you want to get more information, they can come.
Absolutely.
Find you. So thank you.
I don't have that long. Matt Health, digital marketing consultant. Maybe 5 words.
I'm Pete Cabby. I work with Merrill Lynch as well. We provide business consulting and financing to owners and executives.
I'm Derek Gebler with Field 59, video streaming services for broadcasters and media.
I'm Doug Scriver. I'm an attorney at Stroud, Winwick & Howard. We provide all sorts of services to small businesses primarily.
I'm Shauna Dean with Cuna Mutual Group.
Shannon Flash, Key Mutual Group.
Travis Human, owner of Stray Cat Bicycles.
Austin Streeper with Northstar Resource Group.
Brent Benjamin, I work for First Bank. I'm a commercial lender. We specialize in SBA lending.
Jacob Thomas, Morgan Stanley.
Greg Fromm, commercial real estate broker with Alexander Real Estate Services.
Jeffrey Jurisco, and I help make small business more focused, fun, and profitable.
Turner Main, I'm currently a marketing student at the University of Northwestern St. Paul.
Shobit Thakur with HealthX Ventures and an organizer here.
Shiv Daftari, I'm just visiting up here from Atlanta, where I'm with the Georgia Department of Economic Development.
Ibrahim Haroon, I'm with IH Concepts. Proud to be part of NASA.
I'm Drew Corson, I'm an attorney at Knight Boucher and one of the organizers of Million Cups.
So you got through introductions, so we're going to invite Nick up and let you present.
Awesome. Thanks, Rachel, and thanks everybody for coming. It really means a lot. We see a lot of familiar faces in the room, so we really appreciate your support. For those of you who don't know me, again, my name is Nick Lombardino. I'm one of the co-founders of AtlasProviders.com. With me today is another co-founder, Ryan Waite, over on the end there. Hi, Ryan. Our third partner, Derek Notman, unfortunately couldn't be here today. He's actually traveling back to Madison as we speak. So what is Atlas Providers? Atlas Providers is an online network of local service providers who are passionate about entrepreneurship and have a proven track record of working with emerging companies. So we've created a digital community where startups can quickly search, review, and connect with specialized startup service providers in a very clear and transparent manner. So a little bit more about the three of us. Although Ryan, Derek, and myself have all come from varying professional backgrounds, kind of the commonality between the three of us is we've spent most of our professional careers either working for companies or, in Derek's case, starting companies that pride themselves on servicing startups and entrepreneurs. So between the three of us, we have over 20 plus years of combined specialized startup service provider experience. So here's the problem, guys. Entrepreneurs oftentimes don't have the time, energy, and resources to effectively and efficiently research, review, and connect with area service providers. So I'll give you guys an example. Around a year ago, we heard a story from a local entrepreneur who was just starting this new business venture, and he was courting a really big potential client. And the client was excited to work with them, but required certain levels of insurance thresholds needed to be met. So he was scrambling to get this figured out, and he picked up the phone, and he called his mom, and he said, "Hey Mom, I'm in a jam here. Who do you use for insurance?" And so she put him in touch with her personal insurance agent. And I think you guys can kind of connect the dots here. That didn't end very well, okay? So reason being, when a startup identifies that they need to engage with a service provider, is usually a very time-sensitive need. And if they don't have the time and resources readily accessible to them, it can be very damaging to the scalability of their business. So here's our solution: a free one-stop shop for entrepreneurs to easily access local, specialized startup service providers. So this is how it works. When a user comes to our website, they can search for service providers in one of two ways. They can do a general search by industry segment, so you can come to our site and look for legal services, accounting and bookkeeping, commercial real estate services, or you can do a much more granular and specific search. So doing keyword searches that are more aligned with key services that you're looking for, so you can come to our site and do a search for maybe errors and emissions insurance, search engine optimization, website development. And then the website will show you all of the service providers that have that service in their profile. So another component to our website is engagement with the service provider. So after you land on a service provider's profile page, you have complete transparency into their kind of core suite of services. And by transparency, I'm talking about their core services and specialties, their compensation model, their community givebacks, client testimonials, select client list if allowed, so on and so forth. Now, Atlas, we pride ourselves on having very, very low barriers to accessing our website, which is to say, when you land on a service provider's profile page, you get immediate access to their contact information, so their direct dial, their email, their social media outlets. In this way, now knowing that it's usually a very time-sensitive need when you're looking for a service provider, Atlas does not want to play the role of the middleman in getting the two of you connected. We want you to have the immediacy to reach out to that service provider however you'd like to. And then finally, we've created a feedback loop built into our website. So when you go to a service provider's profile page, there's a feedback button. We want to know when a client works with one of the service providers in our network. We want to know if it's a great experience, pretty good experience, or a not so great experience. And this way, we are engaging the community to help us continuously vet the service providers that we have on our network. So get this question a lot. How do you onboard service providers onto your network? So we have a pretty robust application process. I kind of bullet pointed out what we're looking for in our application. So core services and specialties. We want to make sure that you're aligning your core services and specialties with the unique challenges that startups face. Also looking into your compensation model. Are you commission-based? Is it a flat fee? Do you have packages that are specifically aligned with the startup community? Do you have flexible or deferred payment schedules? Some of the service providers in our network also do equity plays in the startups that they work with. Community givebacks. We also want to know how embedded you are in the local startup community. Are you sponsoring events? Are you members of certain organizations? Do you help facilitate forums like 1 Million Cups? These are the types of service providers we want in our network. We also obviously want to look at the clients that that service provider has worked with in the last 12 months. We also want to know what types of free pro bono service offerings they're willing to give to startups. And then finally, doing reference checks. So the final bullet point, we have an application committee. It's a group of local entrepreneurs and community leaders that helps us review and approve service providers that come onto our network. So our dear friend, Drew Curzon, here's an example profile for you guys. So many of you know Drew. He is an attorney at Snyder & Boucher, and he is extremely embedded in Madison's startup community. And this is kind of a great poster child of the type of service provider we want in our network. So as you can see on the left-hand margin, and I'm sorry I did a screenshot and shrunk it down, but on the left-hand margin is all of the contact information for Drew. So like I said, you got his website, his direct dial, connecting with him on LinkedIn, email, and then you can see that feedback button at the bottom. On the right-hand side is more of the content-heavy information. So I'm sorry if you guys can't read this. It's core services and specialties, how can Drew help you, how's Drew compensated, and his community givebacks. This green box in the middle here, I glossed over this earlier. So this is pretty cool. We call this community insight. So A service provider on our network has the ability to upload or send to us original content that they've created. So maybe it's a blog post, maybe they ran a podcast, a video, some sort of editorial or article that they've written that aligns itself with the startup community. So a few growth initiatives in no particular order, although this is a big one. Monetize. So far, Ryan, Derek, and myself, we have just bootstrapped this operation ourselves. The platform will always remain free to the end user, which is the entrepreneur. We are right now investigating different revenue models for how we can start getting some profitability and reinvesting it into the platform. So considering doing some paid advertising or premium add-on features that service providers can take advantage of, potentially having them featured on the homepage for a period of time. And then also looking into either a monthly or annual marketing fee that the service provider pays to us. User logins. So right now on our platform, the user has no barriers to access our platform. So what we want to do moving forward is create login credentials so that we get better visibility into how the users are engaging and behaving on our site. In this way, we can continue to make future enhancements and make pivots along the way that best align with what the startup is looking for. And then finally, expansion. We still consider this kind of our prototype MVP in Madison. Should it take hold like we hope it will, we are going to try and deploy it in other communities that have a similar startup ecosystem like Madison does. And I think the next logical step would be to take it over to the greater Milwaukee, Chicago area. And then, and this is a ways down the road, but also starting to investigate the idea of creating an application around this, this type of network. So how can you guys help us? Visit our website. That's probably number one on the list. Visit our website, engage with it, and give us feedback. On the slide after this one, I provide our email handle. We would absolutely love to hear from you guys. We are trying to be more active and engaged on social media, so we're on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. If you guys think what we're doing is kind of cool, please engage with us through those mediums. And if you like it, help us get the word out. If you know of local startups that are kind of at that point where they need to start going out and engaging with local service providers, please point them in the direction of our website. And service provider references. If you guys know of specialized startup service providers in the area that you think would be a good fit for this type of network, we would love to talk to them. And finally, strategic resources. So Atlas has been fortunate thus far in being able to partner with some pretty great local startup organizations. So far we've partnered with Wisconsin Technology Council, Generator, MadisonStartups.com, and 100 State. And the reason is we want visitors of our site to know all of the other resources available to them in the Madison community and vice versa. And that's it, guys. Thank you so much for coming to check us out. I know Ryan and I would love to entertain questions. I hope I did okay on the minute. Okay, awesome.
Perfect.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
All right, so now we're going to open it up for questions.
Yes, sir.
So this is a little premature, but down the line, do you see building up any kind of like user profile management? Like a person could go on and have a login and maybe curate their team, like if they're working with me and Ryan and
you know, that's an awesome idea, Drew. That's something I've never thought of in the past. Yeah, because one of the things I didn't talk about in the presentation, one of the first iterations of AtlasProviders actually had to do with the idea of having local specialized startup service providers collaborating with one another for the sole success of one startup at a time. So kind of to your point, kind of curating your own team and having that team holistically work for your company. Yeah, no, that's a really intriguing idea.
Yes. I think you guys are definitely onto something here by having the users rate the providers. But if that's anonymous, like so if you don't get this user login, so there's where you say who you are when you're giving these ratings, you run the risk of like the trashy Yelp ratings.
Exactly, and candidly, that's a great point. It's something that we've struggled with. We call it keyboard courage. A lot of times it's just human nature. When you have a bad experience, you want to go out and you want to vent about it, right? And if you have a great experience, you really don't go out of your way to share how great it was. So we are still trying to identify what the best mechanism is to have that community vetting and rating system featured on our site.
And currently right now, that's an email directly to us.
Mhm.
So we can actually continue to talk to that person.
Right.
So they're not going to be able to put it right out there. We had talked about that at the beginning. Do we just do star ratings where you can do that automatically? But we want to be able to track it and find out about the experience.
Well, that's great that you're being thoughtful about that, but eventually that, you guys handling with email doesn't scale at all.
No, it does not. No, you're right.
How do you plan to market the website?
Yeah, thank you. So a lot of our marketing initiatives have to do with partnering with these other local organizations like I mentioned. So the advantage to these other local organizations is when their membership base comes to them and they say, hey, can you please point me in the right direction for digital marketing, website development services. Oftentimes they're put in an uncomfortable position because they have other paying members. That puts them in kind of a conflict of interest, being able to recommend one service provider over another. So for them to be able to say, hey, you guys should check out AtlasProviders.com. That'll give you a pretty great holistic overview of specialized service providers in your area. So to answer your question, Nicole, a lot of our marketing has to do with partnering with these other organizations so that we can become an extension of their resources.
Are those organizations like GMCC, WEDC, Chamber of Commerce, WEDC?
Yes,
Okay.
yep. And Merlin Mentors would be another great example, you bet.
I recently have been working with Glassdoor, and they kind of have, they have a platform where you can leave reviews and kind of rate a company and say stuff like that. And one thing that they do is they put the onus on the company to monitor their activity, and then there's an option for the company to flag an inappropriate or inaccurate review, and then that gets held from the system. So if it's flagged, it doesn't post until then the team has reviewed it at Glassdoor with the company who's disputing it.
Sure, so there's that reviewing mechanism that...
Yeah, but then they don't have to review everything, and it's kind of on, the onus goes back onto the provider to say, hey, you gotta maintain your profile and make sure that everything looks good and that the reviews coming in are accurate.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea. Drew?
I really like the emphasis on identifying people's pro bono services or their community involvement. Have you thought about kind of aggregating that on the Atlas level and saying, having a quarterly, like, hey, this is the Atlas Pro Bono Fair, where we can identify people that can really jumpstart your initiative with some free legal services, free insurance audit, whatever.
Yeah, no, that's super timely. We are in the process of organizing a kind of a brainstorming session with service providers in our network to talk about exactly that, how we can have some type of forum that's aligned with what you just described. Yeah, great. Thanks, Drew. Dennis?
I don't know how to phrase it, but we run it, this is a good service because we run into this all the time at Merlin. And a lot of startup is, companies know their product, but they don't know the infrastructure.
Right.
And that's usually what we help them with. Strategic issues, operational issues, that sort of thing. But there's a much bigger network out there of providers of these types of free services and stuff that you probably need to be aware of.
Yeah.
Like the Law and Entrepreneurial Clinic, some of the university initiatives, Capital Entrepreneurs. Because what we find is some of these people that come to us, they've already been, somebody's gotten into their ear.
Yeah.
And they've gone down a path that actually we have to spend a fair amount of time correcting because they've chosen the wrong service provider. So I'd recommend you do a little more analysis of the area and get tight. 100 State is a great one, but,
Yeah.
but there's others that you should get tied into
No,
also.
thank you, Dennis. Ryan, if you want to talk about kind of the conversations we've had with more of those.
Yeah, we've continued to work with UW Small Business Development Center and
the UW Law and Entrepreneurs Clinic.
Right.
In fact, we as Atlas providers are going through their process of being able to work with them to
They seem to get a lot of them right out of the gate.
Yeah.
And a lot of the advice comes through them, so that's good.
So we have meetings set, and I don't know if you mentioned it, but we really launched this 2-3 weeks ago. Launched just telling people about it so we can get more service providers on, get more strategic resources, partnerships. So we're continuously changing what we have and adding to it. What we have right now is not not the end of it. I mean, there's, what is it, HR doesn't have anybody in it yet. So that's just an example,
Sure.
we're still building. and
Could I just
we're
ask,
still
what
talking.
is your business model?
Yeah, sure. So our revenue, so right now we don't have much of a business model since this is completely free for everybody. Moving forward, the revenue model that we're going to start looking into is how do we get profitability from the service providers that we onboard onto our network, right? So some of the premium add-on features that a service provider can add to their profile. Some of the, I mentioned the monthly and annual subscription fee that we would get from service providers.
One of the things we found with services like yours is that there's a fine line between recommendation and endorsement. And I think if you walk into the endorsement side, you're asking for a little bit of trouble, but that also is more lucrative, so it
is a fine line, yeah, and that's something that we're continuing to investigate and wrap our arms around. Yeah, that's true, Dennis. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes, sir.
So I'm looking at your website and there seem to be like a list of industries that you're looking for.
Yeah.
Is it just limited to those industries
Yeah,
or?
thank you for bringing that up. That's something that we probably should touch on. I don't have internet connected to my laptop right now, otherwise I'd show you. But if you do the search that's by general industry segment, you're going to see all of the industries that we've onboarded thus far, and then there's a button, to your point, that says, do you not see an industry or service that you're looking for? Click here, tell us about it. We want to know about it. So to answer your question, no, like those are not the only ones that we will have featured. We're going to let the community tell us if there are gaps. You bet. Yeah, thank you.
So when you look at a startup, a true startup has really three pain points when they look at service providers: cost, access, and knowledge, right? Those are the three pain points. They always worry about, are they getting the right knowledge? Do they have, will the service provider give them the right type of access that they need? Hey, I need a question, will someone pick up the phone? And then cost, right? And so I think you're trying to get those, but what I would say is, as a startup, my first worry would be is I'm gonna spend a lot of time calling up these guys one by one and trying to go, hey, so for example, at an accounting firm, what are your hourly rates? And I still think that there's gonna be a lot of gray area there until you go to that accounting firm and you go, you have to charge or you have to do X or Y. So a startup gets a quick understanding that, hey, all they need to worry about is really, does this accounting firm have the knowledge in it? Yeah. And does this accounting firm give you the access? Because otherwise, right, all a startup worries about is cash. And if you don't have funding, that's even big. So you know, I'm a former lawyer, current lawyer, I guess, and I can tell you that like all the law firms are a little different. Yeah. And I've yet to see a law firm other than Alpha Tech, which goes $500 a month for up until Series A. There aren't many that do that. Yeah. And so I would try to figure that part of it out, because I think that that's going to be a big concern if I was a startup coming to your site. Mm-hmm. And then on the service provider side, I don't know how many you have. So like, do you guys go, hey, until we have 10 lawyers, we don't go live with this thing? Because if I come and I only see one, I'm never coming back, yeah, right? I'm just going to say there's not enough content here for my time.
Yeah, it's me. Yeah, no.
Other than Drew.
That's really important. Yeah, so there's a balance, right? Because what we don't want to do is onboard so many service providers within a certain industry segment that it just becomes like the yellow pages, right? But at the same time, we want there to be enough options for the startup to be able to do their own due diligence and evaluate what types of resources are out there. So to answer your question, we've never formally stated that we're going to put a cap on certain industry segments. So inherently, legal services, insurance, these are things that pop up really early and often for startups. So those tend to have more service providers aligned with those industry segments. Other things like wealth management that come much later, and maybe even digital marketing to a certain extent, then you start to see a little bit less in the service providers, because there's only a select few that try and specialize within the startup space.
Yeah. His comment about Alpha Tech actually brought up, I think, why this service is so valuable, because and I know Matt Storms, and I also know Joe Boucher. And they're really two different companies in terms of what they provide, and I think that's the important thing that you guys can look at, because every startup is going to have a different set of needs in all the areas that you're hitting. And there isn't There's very few one-size-fits-alls out there, and if they are, they're very expensive.
Right.
And not only that, you can see the personality differences of each service provider and how they filled out their page.
Exactly.
You know, did someone just is it short and sweet and to the point, or is theirs this long? It's very, very detailed. That startup might say, I think I'm gonna work with this person just because of their personality.
Right, and that's important also.
Yeah. Andy?
So as a startup that could really get a lot of benefit using something like this, you know, potentially I could use all of these services, you know, and, you know, maybe you have 5 attorneys and 5, you know, CPAs and whatever. So I can go to your website and I can look and kind of vet who's in there and say, I'd be interested in working with or learning more about that one, and that one, right? But myself, I only want to work with somebody that wants to work with me. So is there a place for me to fill out a profile and say, these are the needs that I have, this is the direction I think I want to go, but I'm not sure about this. So then they can
come to you, more
vet me as well, and then start a conversation, you know, that isn't, you know, instead of me running around town interviewing all these people or whatever, just let AtlasProviders do that.
Right, let them kind of compete to work with you. Yeah, so that's really intriguing. That's something that that functionality is something that we're tooling around with specific to that app initiative that we have down the road. That's something that we want to investigate further. But yeah, that would be a pretty big
Maybe just having a community where you can post and maybe they can answer questions too.
Like Match.com for attorneys.
Like Match.com. Which, isn't there something like that?
That'd be the worst Match.com.
So there are, right, so, but to answer your question, there are a lot of websites, and I'm actually trying to find one because I have listed on my work computer, that you say what your issue is, and attorneys will come out and go $100 flat fee to do X, Y, and Z.
That's the one.
So there are a lot of those in different forms. Other than, like, when you talk about anything that goes to insurance agencies and stuff like that, it gets a lot more gray, right? Because you don't see what their compensation is on the back end, and you don't see kind of what their value is. I mean, I've seen, like you said, no insurance agent's going to turn you away, and yet only 5 to 10% of them will probably be able to do what you need them to do, and be there for you as you grow. That's the bigger issue, right? Like when overnight someone goes, hey, we need to go from a $3 million to a $5 million per aggregate because this contract needs to sign tomorrow. Very few agents can pick up the phone and make that happen in 24 hours. And so those are the types of people you want to surround yourself with. So.
Yeah. Seems like you'd be able to solve some of those problems.
Yeah. Yeah, Jake.
Yeah, how many current service providers do you have on the website right now?
We have about 25 onboarded. Yep.
I don't know if this ever becomes like a revenue source, but have you thought about sort of expanding on the entrepreneur side, like not to replace anything that's currently going on in Madison, but to be able to virtually, you know, hey, whether it's a message board, expanding the profile where somebody can connect with other entrepreneurs, easily reach out, you know, so I think about like a LinkedIn in-mail type of a thing,
right,
where you can start to network, hey, what was your experience like? I read your review, but tell me more.
Yeah.
Who else are you using? What are you actually, again, not as a replacement, but to augment,
right,
kind of in a virtual sense, some of what's going on here.
No, yeah, that's something we haven't thought of before. That's a really intriguing idea. Yeah, so there would certainly be opportunity to tap into that space. Yeah. Awesome.
And do you have a question for us as the community on how we could help you and AtlasProviders?
This was already very helpful, this
feedback.
feedback.
Yeah, this feedback was wonderful. And please, when you have time, visit the website and poke around and give us feedback. Let us know what you like and what you think maybe there are some gaps that we could probably correct.
And if you know of other service providers that are great and work in this industry that you don't see out there, either introduce them to it or just give us the names and we'll reach out to them. We want to keep growing.
Great. Then we're going to give you a round of applause. And then you'll be hanging around too for maybe the next 10 to 15 minutes if anybody wants to come up and ask some additional questions.
Yeah, a lot of food left over there. So, thanks everybody, really appreciate it. Thank you.